Alright, so good morning, welcome to the new series. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, we'll figure out a name for it, but welcome. Well, let's just get started and jump right in. Since I cannot travel anymore, and since basically the whole world is in lockdown, I have decided to start this new series. I am currently working on myself a bit more because I kind of need it, and I have started reading this book, which is the Tao Te Ching, which is a Chinese book from 2,500 years ago, supposedly written by Lau-tse, this mystical man. Now scholars kind of already agree that Lao-tse never existed, and that this is a combination of the wisdom of all the great philosophers and scientists from China at that time. It is the second most translated book after the Bible, which is kind of incredible since the Bible and Christianity did so much to try and promote their religion and try to promote the Bible, and Taoism and the Tao Te Ching, they really didn't try to promote themselves, so that just goes to show how important this book is. I'm thinking of doing a chapter every video. Now that might seem like a lot, but every chapter is only that big, so it's not much. And this first poem tries to describe the universe. Let's just jump in. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the beginning of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of 10,000 things. Ever desireless, one can see the mystery. Ever desiring, one can see the manifestations. These two spring from the same source but differ in name. This appears as darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gate to all mystery. First of all, what is this Tao? This Tao is literally translated the way. This is the way to live a life in harmony with nature and understand yourself. Of course, we all want to live this easily and effortlessly. So what is this way then? Well, it cannot be explained. The first two lines of the poem already tell you the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. Okay, kind of a bummer. Why can we not learn about this perfect way to live? Well, that is because the poem basically says that we as humans can only think of things that we can conceive of, obviously. And the perfect way to live and how everything in the universe works is way too complex for us to even conceive of, and that's why we as people can never truly explain the Tao. You might think, well, but maybe in the future we can explain everything with science, but if you take something like color, everybody can see color and understands it, but can you really explain the color green? Or love? Everybody knows what love is, or how to open your hand, or how to move your leg. Everybody knows what it's like, but you cannot explain it. And the Tao basically says, just like those things, there are so many more things that we cannot explain. The Tao basically says there is no way you can explain to someone the best way to live. This is kind of weird because most religions have a very certain set of rules of how to live. So again, they're not really trying their best to sell their work, because they're literally saying, you know, the Tao Te Ching, this is the perfect way to live your life, but we cannot explain it to you. But it is very interesting. So now we know that as people, we cannot explain certain stuff. It also goes for ourselves. We cannot explain ourselves fully. We cannot always make the best choices, because if I want to make the best choice, I have to take into account an infinite number of things, and that's impossible. The Tao is basically teaching us to let go, to understand that life cannot be perfect, and that we should accept that, to stop worrying. That's basically what it's teaching. Now, it also says, nameless is the beginning of heaven and earth, the named is the mother of 10,000 things. Like we said before, people really want to explain stuff and communicate. That's how we as humans survive. Not everything can be understood in this way. We as people, we have invented these words and these concepts to make sense. So if you take the plant, for example, or the plant behind me, what is this plant? Is it the leaves and the branches, or are the roots part of the plant? But then without the sunlight and the water and the nutrients in the ground, the plant would die. If the plant dies without sunlight, isn't sunlight part of the plant as well? So that's basically what the Tao is trying to tell us, that before people were around to name this a plant, or to name this a tree, or a bench, things were what they were. They were not objects, but everything was harmonious sort of flow of energy. Everything was connected, because without one thing, the other could not exist. We as people, we named stuff. So the nameless is the beginning of heaven and earth. Without us naming stuff, things always existed in harmony. But the named is the mother of 10,000 things, because we as people name things, and we have 10,000 different things now. We also do this to ourselves. How many of you have said, I am not smart enough, or I am antisocial, or I am just not a math person, or I'm just not a language person? For some reason in the West, we really try to separate these things. We should not be so hard on ourselves to judge, because we are too complicated for us to just name ourselves something. We are basically a living and breathing miracle, if you think about it. And what would we be able to achieve if we didn't put ourselves down all the time? This, I think, is very important for most people, to just stop putting yourself in this sort of frame of what you are, that you're not good enough, and to just let go and accept that you are just human. Ever desireless, one can see the mystery. Ever desiring, one can see the manifestations. Desiring is good, wanting to learn, wanting to experience, wanting to do something, but it says that then we can never see the mystery. That's kind of a problem. Let's just say somebody defines their happiness as having a good job, a nice house, car, kids. Once a person gets to that stage, they're still not happy. The Tao tries to teach us that because you're desiring, and because we're people, we can only think in objects and in things and in concepts. That doesn't bring happiness. We are limited to these very things. Also, when you say, I want to be happy, you already define yourself as not being happy. And the Tao is basically now saying, if you want to be happy, you should stop wanting to be happy. You should just accept life as it comes and be happy that you can be here and live this life. These two spring from the same source but differ in name. This appears as darkness, darkness within darkness, the gate to all mystery. So the only way that we as people can live a life without struggle and live effortlessly is if we accept that we are human. We cannot understand everything. We cannot always make the right decisions. We are not perfect, but we should just let go and follow the Tao, follow the way, because no matter how stressed you are, how important you think this decision is going to be, no amount of stress will change anything about the rest of the world. When you can understand that these things are just in your head, you can let go and just live life and let things work out on their own. That will take a huge part of stress away. In just 10 lines, this poem has explained to us the incomprehensible complexity of life, the way that we as people try to control things and try to make sense of the world around us, and how we should let those things go. So in 10 lines, this philosophical book has already explained to us the essence of life, but it hasn't. That is the Tao, because it explains the essence of life, but it doesn't. And that's the beauty of this book. So I don't know how often I'm gonna post these, but this will be like a series. You can also see them on my Instagram, they'll be there as well. And you can always put something down in the comments or put them in my Instagram DMs if you want to know something about the book. Also, I have the translation by Fu Feng and Jane English, which I really like. I also have a couple of others because it's from ancient Chinese, and ancient Chinese is not something that you can really translate perfectly into Western language. If you want to read the Tao Te Ching, then I would suggest you buy multiple versions. This one is very nice. It's not too difficult to understand, it's not too easy, not too poetic, but it's also not too literal. So this is a really nice middle ground. And I also have one which has the traditional Chinese and the annotations next to it, which is also very interesting. Yeah, tune in next time, chapter 2.